Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 14, Supplemental Material. As you know, for episode 14, we interviewed Pedro Haley, son of Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Bill Haley of Bill Haley and His Comets. Now, Pedro had a lot of great stories to tell, but unfortunately, some of them ended up on the cutting room floor. So this is your way to get those great stories, as well as a bonus, a couple of unreleased tracks by Bill Haley and His Comets. Hope you enjoy.
Well, everybody, we should mention that you can find us on Podomatic, iTunes, Spreaker, Slam Internet Radio, and YouTube with the slideshow. And I have an idea. While you're on iTunes, I was going to say YouTunes. If you're on iTunes, not only subscribe to us and listen to our stuff, but look up Bill Haley and buy some Bill Haley records, especially if you're not familiar with it. Get to know this music. He was one of the forefathers. He was right there in the beginning. And help out the Haley family. Buy some Bill Haley records. and kill two birds with one stone, because you'll love them. They're great. I just downloaded 7 or 8 the other day that I had listened to, and they're fantastic.
I was looking at some websites to see like 50s music and stuff, because my dad is a big 50s music fan, and if he could see here right now, he'd talk your ear off about it. And when I told him I met you, he was like, yeah, whatever. No, I was like, no, I know him. He's like, it's, Pedro Haley. He was all, he's like, what? I'm like, here's his phone number right here. He's like, call him. I'm like, dude, it's like 12:30 at night. I'm not calling him right now.
What are you going to say? Are you Bill Haley's son? Yeah. Okay.
Go back sorry, go back to sleep.
See you later. Nice talking to you.
Yeah, but he's a big 50s fan, and I wanted to look up some stuff, and I found this one website that has it's called vinylsurrender.com. Give them a shout out. And they have a list of the 50s music, top 20 songs of the 50s. And these are rated by people.
Fan votes?
Okay. Fan votes. So number 1, we won't talk about. But number 2.
It was Love Me Tender.
Yes.
Which, by the way, as an Elvis fan, is my least favorite Elvis song. I can't stand that song.
Number 2 is Rock Around the Clock.
Yeah.
By Bill Haley and His Comets. So that's cool right there. 164 votes for that. Yeah. So that's awesome.
Cool.
In my book.
And then there was a list, and you'll find this interesting. He looked up another list of the top 100 artists of the 50s. Now, what they based this on, I have no idea.
Top 100?
Top 100. And it wasn't just rock people, like Sinatra and those people on it, too.
Okay. Yeah.
And your dad was 24.
Okay.
It's pretty decent for top 100
when
you include everybody.
Within the 25.
You know who 23 was? I thought, kind of ironic. One of your heroes, Eddie Cochran, was 23.
Wow.
So your dad and Eddie Cochran are side by side, 23 and 24.
Right. Well, that's great. That's cool. That's good, yeah. One of the important things that I think says a lot about the achievement that my dad did with his band. I try and give them credit, because the band was really important to creating the sound, obviously. Mm-hmm. But after 1954, when Rock Around the Clock was recorded, and then it came out in a movie called The Blackboard Jungle. Was your
dad in that movie?
He wasn't in that. Okay. He wasn't in the movie. They used the song as the opening credits.
Because I've seen a scene of something, and I thought it was
my dad made several movies.
Okay.
He was the one that he was actually in was called Rock Around the Clock.
Yeah.
Right.
It was, and he was in that. But the movie is a pure piece of fluff, and he appears in it as singing and playing, and he has a couple of speaking parts. But most of the time, it's just like a side view. But he did, end up in another movie called Don't Knock the Rock.
Yep, that's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, and then there was a big revival in the late '60s and early '70s. There was a revival of 50s music along with Sha Na Na. Sha Na Na was, helped along with this, but there was a movie called Let the Good Times Roll that he was the headliner of that, and other things, and of course
American Graffiti and Happy Days.
Well, yeah,
really helped your dad.
That was just the music that was in that.
Yeah, no, he wasn't in it, but I mean that really was a boost.
What I was going to say is that Billboard, they used to, it was all just the top 100 in 1954. But after Rock Around the Clock, Billboard delineated music into pop music and rock and roll, or whatever the category
and the
was that
Sinatrans
they
and
called
Clooney's,
it.
those were pop.
And that is, I would have to say, quite a significant landmark in music history when an industry finally recognizes that there has been a great schism of that magnitude, that they actually create a new category.
Yeah, and it was right after your dad's record.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was because of that.
Yeah, it's way cool. So we're going to go a little long today, sorry, because I got
so
many
I think
things we
this
want to
is
talk
good.
about.
I have a couple more things.
I got to ask you about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame story that you told me, because it was hilarious.
And cool.
Which one?
About who you met and how you didn't know who they were.
Oh, okay. Well, my dad was inducted. This is a bone of contention for me and my family, but he was inducted into this Hall of Fame in the second.
Yeah, he was
class.
in the second class. That's a tragedy.
That is
the
tragedy.
first class was in '86. He got inducted in '87, along with Eddie Cochran,
Cool.
and Big Joe Turner and B.B. King.
Nice. That's a good
Ricky
crowd
Nelson,
to be with, though,
Roy
right?
Orbison.
Ricky Nelson also, and there was about I think there were 10 or 11.
Wasn't Roy Orbison that same year too?
Roy Orbison was there. Yeah, that's right. Yes, and a great honor, obviously, for me. My mother asked me to, because they invited her. I remember, I still have the letter from Jan Wenner.
Wow.
The
You've
guy
got
from
to bring that
the
up here
Rolling
sometime.
Stone editor, where
cool.
he invites me to come to the induction dinner, which happened at the Waldorf Astoria, and this was the first time I'd been anywhere that far up north. It snowed. It was the first time I'd seen snow. Anyway,
Wow.
So there I was, and I was getting into a line next to the stage. This was the early stages of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame before it was televised or
Right.
anything like that. Now it's a big deal, of course. But there were a lot of personalities there that are still big names. I mean, I remember John. I can't. Okay, so I'm gonna.
He's going to name drop here, but that's
I'm gonna
okay.
drop some names here, and please forgive me, because I am not
You're forgiven.
I'm not a vain person at all. But I actually, my moment of glory was at this time. I think I was 16 years old.
Wow.
But I came out in Rolling Stone magazine. It was a photograph of the ceremony, and all these photographed different people. And in Rolling Stone, I came out with Chuck Berry.
Wow.
Cool.
And in Us magazine, I came out with John Fogerty.
Awesome.
Nice.
But the story that you're talking about is that I was waiting in line to accept the statue,
Yeah.
and I had it was a really lovely honor, a great honor, and very appropriate, I believe, that the man who actually made a speech, gave my father his due, and then introduced me and handed me the award was Chuck Berry.
Awesome.
But I was waiting in line, and there was a man standing in front of me that was about as tall as me. He had a ponytail. I remember this, and
He was sensitive.
This was the '80s, remember?
Yeah.
So he had a ponytail.
Was it Steven Seagal?
No, it wasn't. He would have been, a
Taller,
foot,
yeah, he's
foot and a
taller.
half taller than me and kicking my ass. But no, this man was standing in front of me, and Chuck Berry was talking, and I was trying to get through, and he was standing in front of me, and I tapped him on the shoulder, and I said, "Excuse me, I need to get up," and he said, "Oh, are you Bill Haley's son?" And I said, "Yes," and he said, the usual. I don't remember the exact words, but
Your dad meant a lot to me. I love his music.
What a great contribution your dad made. All this stuff, And I noticed he was English. He was an Englishman, and he looked extremely familiar to me. But at that moment, I was completely focused on the fact of
Probably nervous.
what I was going to say when
Yeah.
I got onto the stage.
Mhm.
Well, after that had all happened, and I was back down, and I was just kind of chit-chatting with people, and just living it up and having a good time, and just kind of in just this incredible I can't describe
You're in awe.
it.
You had to have been in awe.
I couldn't I can't describe just what world I had been placed into, because at the time I was in military school in South Texas, and then I had been placed in the middle of New York City amongst some of the most famous people in the music business.
Wow.
And later on, I looked and I saw the guy again, and I finally, it hit me who it was. It was Sting.
Wow.
He was an Englishman in New York.
That's true.
And then,
wow. So, yeah, but wasn't he talking to someone big too? Who was he talking to?
I don't remember.
You told me before, and I don't
well,
remember.
I know that Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top was there. Actually,
Awesome.
Billy Gibbons was he actually made a phone call to my hotel room to tell me that he, as a fellow Texan, and that my dad admired Texas, he was really happy to see that my dad was being inducted, and that he that the usual spiel. But I'll never forget that, because at the time I didn't know who Billy Gibbons was.
No. Oh, no.
But when he told me that he was with ZZ Top, I immediately, I knew that at least he was a member of ZZ Top. I now know who Billy Gibbons is,
Yes.
but at that time I was just like, wow, okay, this guy from ZZ Top, cool. You
Wow.
know? But that was.
Didn't the boss talk to you?
Yeah, he was there. That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, he was. Yeah.
Tom Petty there?
But he makes it every year.
Yeah, he
Isn't
does.
there every year?
Yeah, he does.
I don't think Tom Petty was there.
Roy Orbison talked to you too, didn't he?
That's right. There was a
Roy Orbison, but who was really nice to me? Chuck Berry was incredibly gracious. Bo Diddley got inducted that year too.
All right.
Yeah.
Great company, man.
Bo Diddley was gracious. Bo Diddley had a lot of really nice things to say about my dad, because they toured a lot together.
Yeah. That's
And
cool.
there was a songwriter who wrote songs with Big Joe Turner named Doc Pomus, who was there to accept the award for Big Joe Turner, and he was so pleased to meet me. He was like, Big Joe and your dad were the best of friends, and all of, I can't remember. This was 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago, but it was really interesting. The other person who was just fantastic, I remember, besides Chuck Berry, Bo Diddley, was Carl Perkins. He was still there. As a matter of fact, I think he was another inductee that year.
Okay, probably was. Yeah, that was a good year.
And,
okay, so for your dad not to make it the first year is a travesty, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But he went in with a pretty good class.
He did go with a good class, but I wonder.
You gotta imagine the guy who made the first class probably got fired.
It's been years since I actually looked it up to see who made the first class, but obviously
It was Elvis, Chuck Berry, Little Richard.
Who
Yeah.
was there. Who EP and
I shouldn't
The
say the King,
Beatles,
right?
the Beatles.
I'd probably be remiss to say the King. And I wouldn't do that. I'm just
You just
busting your chops. No, I'm busting his chops because Pedro's a good friend, and he knows I'm just jabbing at him here.
Well, my wife has just recently. My wife is a drama teacher at a very big high school here in the DFW area, and she put on a musical recently called Bye Bye Birdie.
Mm-hmm.
And she asked me for lots of help concerning the 50s, and so I gave her as much information as I could. But she received, through a friend, she received a lot of information about Elvis Presley, including some little quip that came out of Reader's Digest or something about who was the original actor who played the King in Bye Bye Birdie, and she showed it to me, and I said, well, first of all, Elvis Presley is not the King, but that for very personal reasons, I believe,
Absolutely.
I believe I know.
I'm just a fan.
I believe I know who the real King is.
Yeah,
but,
and there's just because of common popularity of vernacular and the fact that I am a big Elvis fan, I still think there's several people that could be considered the King. So
yeah,
I don't have a problem with
yeah,
that.
No, I mean,
if someone said Bill Haley's the King of rock and roll, I wouldn't argue with them. If someone said Chuck Berry's King of rock and roll, wouldn't argue with them.
But it's arbitrary.
Yeah, it is.
It's a
And
silly
I
point,
think that
but
the portion that makes me want to refer to him as the King is just because of the popularity. I mean, he was the king of popularity of all that. Wow, we just had some major thunder.
There's a tornado warning.
Oh,
by the
okay.
way.
Wow. Elvis is the king of popularity, but as far as the originator. He's obviously not the originator.
No, not at all.
If that's why you want to call him the king, then you're wrong. You know what I'm saying?
I always, when people tell me that, Elvis Presley had this or that going on with them, I always like to point out that there are many photographs of my dad and Elvis Presley together, and that they were very good friends, as a matter of fact. And when Elvis died, my dad, I'll never forget this. When Elvis Presley died, my dad went on probably one of the biggest binges that he ever went on because he was so saddened by it. But let's not forget there's that famous photograph of, several photographs of when Elvis was in the army in Germany and my dad was touring in Germany. Elvis got liberty to come and see my dad play and went backstage, and there are those famous photographs of my dad getting ready to go on stage, tuning his guitar with Elvis in his uniform, and they're sitting there shooting the bull.
That's cool.
So
way cool.
Yeah, they were really, really good friends.
Yep, I got the list of inductees for that year. So we've got Leonard Chess.
For the Chess Records.
Yeah, Jerry Wexler.
Another record company exec. Yeah.
Aretha Franklin. B.B.
Queen
King,
of Soul. Okay.
Yep. Big Joe Turner. Bill Haley, obviously. Bo Diddley. Carl Perkins. Clyde McPhatter.
Oh, yeah.
Eddie Cochran. Hank Williams.
Yeah.
Jackie Wilson. The Coasters. Marvin Gaye. Louis Jordan.
Yeah.
Ricky Nelson. Roy Orbison. Smokey Robinson. Jerry Lieber and Mike Stoller.
They wrote a lot of Elvis hits and other people.
Hound Dog.
T-Bone Walker. Muddy Waters, one of my personal favorites. And there was one other one that I can't really... Ahmet
Ertegun. He was with Atlantic Records. He was a big...
Another record exec.
Great year, though. I mean, that's
a good list.
Yeah, actually, and when I think about it now, looking back on it, 3 of the people that were inducted that year were some of my father's big heroes. Hank Williams, Louis Jordan, and Big Joe Turner were all great influences on my dad. I mean, the what's the word that I was just using when we looked at all my dad's stuff, for my mom's will, we found my dad's records, and it was Bob Wills, Hank Williams, lots of Mexican trio music, a very famous Mexican composer named Agustin Lara, and Ray Charles, Louis Jordan, Big Joe Turner, and Hank Williams, I think I've already said, and some various other things. Glenn Miller, music of the greatest generation, really, essentially, for the most part. Yeah.
So what are you doing nowadays? You teach, and you also...
Yeah, well, after it's funny, we go back to this Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction, but up until that point, I was aspiring to be an officer in the United States Marine Corps, and that's why I was in military school. It was actually a military school run by Marines, and the whole point of it was to send us to the few and the proud, and I was my aspirations were to go into the Naval Academy, but I went to the Hall of Fame, and that was the first time that I really got a chance to see my father as the performer, because up until that time it was just my father, and they had a big video screen above the stage at the Waldorf, and they showed a lot of live clips that I had never seen before in my life at that time, and that moved me immensely. It was rapturous. It changed my life forever. I got home. When I got home, I borrowed a guitar from my mom. She actually, this is a funny story, she loaned me a guitar that belonged to my dad that he didn't play, or so she told me. And I taught myself how to play guitar, and I later just recently have found out that this guitar that I treated so badly because I was a teenager and just imitating Pete Townsend, later on, doing some digging, my mom swore up and down that my dad never played this guitar, never touched it, never did anything with it. And then I go through some boxes of photographs, and I find a photograph of my dad performing live in 1968 in Sweden with that guitar. And I'm just like, oh, Jesus. Wow. I can't believe I treated the guitar that way. You know?
But you learned how to play on that guitar.
I did learn how to play.
So yeah.
Anyway, I continued on with music, and I'm a classical guitarist. I teach music history at a local community college, and I also teach privately piano, guitar, music theory, et cetera, here in the Dallas area.
And there's some YouTube videos of you.
Yes,
you're a very talented dude.
Well, I mean, I work very hard, and classical musicians are known for that. That's what we do.
Yeah. So check out Pedro Haley on YouTube as well, and check out his fine work. The guy can play.
Yep. So we're at the end of the podcast today. We did run a little bit long, but I think
it was worth it. This was a
given
good
the
one.
subject matter, awesome. So
well, thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun, and
You'll do it again, right?
I don't get. I will. I don't get a chance to.
You come back next time, and all we'll talk about cigars. Promise. So.
Well, no, we have to talk some music. Come on.
No, just
that's what the people want. They want to hear.
That's what you
Pedro
want.
Haley. No, I guarantee you, people will be commenting on this one about the music.
So definitely check us out on Podomatic, iTunes, Spreaker, Slam Internet Radio. Don't forget to check out those YouTube videos where we have pictures of what we smoked, as well as pictures of fine young ladies.
And when on iTunes, buy some Bill Haley tunes.
For sure.
You will be happy.
Yes. So anything else, guys?
No, it's good stuff. It's a great cigar. Pick up some the Cane F Lanceros.
Yeah. Yep.
It's in the Oliva family, obviously, but it's not Oliva.
Yep.
And check out our website. We have a little hiccups with the website, but it should be up and running. CalypsoCigars.com. We can be reached at 972-761-9903. And like us on Facebook.
Yes, definitely. So thanks for smoking with us, guys. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Jealous heart, oh jealous heart, stop beating. Can't you see the damage you have done? You have driven her away forever. Jealous heart, now I'm the lonely one. She was part of everything I planned for, and I know she loved me from the start. Now she hates the sight of all I stand for, all because of you, oh jealous heart. She was part of everything I planned for, and I know she loved me from the start. Now she hates the sight of all I stand for, all because of you, oh jealous heart.
Sure, that would be if I did a record just like.
Do it from the top, Bill, so I've got the entire thing here, you see?
All right.
On the top, you know, cold part.
I tried so hard, my dear, to show that you're my every dream. Yet you're afraid each thing I do is just some evil scheme. a memory from your lonesome past keeps us so far apart. Why can't I free your doubtful mind and melt your cold, cold heart? Another love before my time made your heart sad and blue. And so my heart is paying now for things I didn't do. In anger, unkind words are said that make the teardrop start. Why can't I free your doubtful mind and melt your cold, cold heart? There was a time when I believed that you belonged to me, but now I know your heart is shackled to a memory. The more I learn to care for you, the more we drift apart. Why can't I free your doubtful mind and melt your cold, cold heart?
Just a heartless gambler whose luck is running bad. I'm just a heartless gambler who's mighty blue and sad. I got the four-leaf clover blues, got the four-leaf clover blues. I want to gamble all the time and never, never lose. Wanna roll them bones and hear the losers moan, 'cause baby needs a new pair of shoes. I'm a wild and reckless gambling man, got the four-leaf clover blues. Hey, got the four-leaf clover blues. You can have your poker games, you can have your dice. I'll take my four-leaf clover and gamble all my life. Got the four-leaf clover blues, got the four-leaf clover blues. I want to gamble all the time and never, never lose. Wanna roll them bones and hear the losers moan, baby needs a new pair of shoes. I'm a wild and reckless gambling man, got the four-leaf clover blues. Hey, got the four-leaf clover blues. Don't want wealth or riches, I don't want grief or strife. I'll take my four-leaf clover and gamble all my life. Got the four-leaf clover blues, got the four-leaf clover blues. Want to gamble all the time and never, never lose. Wanna roll the bones and hear the losers moan, baby needs a new pair of shoes. I'm a wild and reckless gambling man, got the four-leaf clover blues. Hey, got the four-leaf clover blues. I'll travel o'er this country, I'll just keep roving on. If I lose my four-leaf clover, I'll know my luck is gone. Got the four-leaf clover blues, got the four-leaf clover blues. I want to gamble all the time and never, never lose. I wanna roll them bones and hear the losers moan, baby needs a new pair of shoes. I'm a wild and reckless gambling man, got the four-leaf clover blues. Hey, got the four-leaf clover blues.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, the hour is late. The tapes are running out. We would like to say one thing. Thank you very much. Rock and Roll Revival if it means having audiences like you and places like this to work, why, I think the New York Post said today, I didn't expect them to print it, but they did in the article today, and I mean it. When I'm 75 and if you can still clap your hands, I can still hold a guitar. We'll still have rock and roll. I'll still be playing, all right? 1, 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, rock. 5, 6, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, rock. 9, 10, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, rock. We're going to rock around the clock. Join me hard. We'll have some fun with the rock. We're going to rock around the clock. We're going to rock, rock, rock. Don't break it. We're going to rock around the clock. When the clock strikes 2, 3, and 4, if the band goes down, we'll go for more. We're going to rock around the clock. We're going to rock, rock, rock. Don't break it. We're going to rock around the clock. When the time brings 5, 6, and 7, we'll be riding 7 heaven. We're gonna rock around the clock tonight. We're gonna rock, 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 till bright daylight. We're gonna rock around the clock tonight. When it's 8, 9, 10, 11, 2, I'll be going strong and so will you. We're gonna rock around the clock tonight. We're gonna rock, 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 till bright daylight. We're gonna rock around the clock tonight. When the clock strikes 12, we'll pull off and start rocking around the clock again. We're gonna rock around the clock tonight. We're gonna rock, 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 till bright daylight. We're gonna rock around the clock tonight. Come on, hey, hey. Bill Haley and the Comets, one more time.